Kayla is here, says hi. Happy Friday. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead. I mean, we got our panel here. So welcome everyone to the Success Panda Live community call. We have with us today on our panel, we have another amazing panel today of hiring managers. We have Maria, Jody, and Matt that have agreed to join us. So we're going to do a little bit of good news minute before we get started. So let's just start with the panel. Any good news between Matt, Jody, or Maria that you have besides it being Friday?
I definitely do. I'm doing my first fall activity this weekend. I love fall. I'm ready for fall to be here. I live in Providence, Rhode Island, so we get a pretty good fall. And I'm going to a cider mill, and I'm going to drink cider and eat apple cider donuts, and I cannot wait.
That's awesome.
That's great. For my good news is I live in Montreal, Quebec, and the fall as well. The season is coming, and we're doing apple picking very soon with my son. Yes.
Sweet.
Hi, everyone. Yeah.
I wondered if apples even grew that far north. So now you've cleared that up. That's cool.
Yes.
Awesome.
For me, I have two young boys, and this is the first year of them both doing travel hockey. So we're entering into travel hockey season, and it's going to be interesting. And this is the first weekend of games for them, so it's going to be a lot of fun and start doing some travel for that. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. Yeah, today I'm going. I have my brother-in-law's in town, and he decided he wanted to go putt-putting. So yeah, we're going to be going putt-putting tonight with my 4 kids and my wife. And the last time we did that, I ended up trying to get my 3-year-old son from not wanting to slide down like a raft in the the water part of the putt-putt, because he was more interested in that. So that will be interesting. So it'll be fun. All right. Well, as people continue to come in, we'll go ahead and just jump into some of the questions, and we'll do some intros here. So I'm Brad Davis, founder of Success Panda and host for today. And we have Maria, Jody, and Matt. And why don't we go in that order with Maria? Why don't you give us an introduction of yourself, and then Jody and Matt, you'll take us up at the rear.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you, Brad, for having us. Very exciting to be part of this session today. I'm Maria Jose Villanueva. I'm based in Montreal, Quebec, in Canada, and I have 15 years of customer success, client-facing account management experience. Most recently, I worked managing enterprise teams, scaled them from 6 to 10 folks in customer success, managing everything from retention, renewals, and also expansion. And recently, I'm working for a company that is based out of Montreal, partner of UKG, to build their customer success department from the ground up. And as well, eventually, we're going to be starting to build that team of CS folks that are going to be leading from retention as well for the renewal. I'm also the founder of Customer Success Montreal Meetup, the first meetup in Montreal. And I'm very involved in the community and very passionate about CS. Yes. Free time, awesome. I'm a sports fan too. Love soccer and any other sport. And hockey, of course, since I'm in Canada. Nice to meet you, everyone.
Oh, sweet. I just went to the FC Cincinnati FC Montreal game. So
there you go.
Yeah, you guys lost, but hey, it's okay.
Yeah.
We all move on. Thanks, Maria. Go ahead, Jody.
Yeah. Hey, happy Friday, everyone. Thanks again, Brad, for having us. My name's Jody Mealy. I have been in customer success for about 8 years. Started off as an IC, customer success manager level 2, moved my way up to senior customer success manager, working with enterprise clients. have managed customer success teams ever since then. So most recently scaled my customer success team from 3 customer success managers to now 8, and work for a property technology product within JLL, which is a commercial real estate and investment management firm. I am based in Providence, Rhode Island. Like I said earlier, I'm an identical twin, and I have a dog named Pretzel, which feels like the key fact to walk away with here.
That is a fun
What
name.
kind of dog is Pretzel? No, yeah,
She's looking at me now that I said her name, of course, but she is an 8-pound Westie Dachshund mix. She's a scrappy little mutt. I rescued her about 9 years ago when I was working in Arizona. So she's the best.
Nice.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Matt.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, my name is Matt Harmon. I'm based in San Jose, California. I've been customer-facing post-sale role for the last almost 25 years with 15 years of leadership experience at small companies, startups, as well as large enterprise companies like Hewlett-Packard Enterprises. So run the gambit of building, rebuilding customer success organizations, as well as CS operations teams over my stops. So it's been a lot of fun on the journey. When I'm not doing CS stuff, like I had mentioned earlier, 2 young boys who are in hockey, which takes up my time. And when I'm home, I have 2 pugs and a Frenchie who are usually, on my lap, not letting me go, so they can get petted. So kind of makes up my day.
Those are cute dogs, though. That is awesome. Cool. Thanks for the intro. So just for those who are joining us on the live broadcast, this is the Hiring Manager AMA. So if you want to post in the comments, if you have a question for our panel, we will highlight your question. We'll bring it up, and then we will discuss it. I do have people that were unable to attend that were submitted some questions. So just let me know, put it in the chat. I'll see it and we'll take care of your question. But actually, I had a large number of people just want to get this very first question, which I will put up on the banner, which here's the question. How would you assess this job market and what are you seeing right now within customer success? So we just do a little round robin and then we'll just freestyle it. So yeah, Maria, if you want to start off.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that right now, definitely the job market continues to be very challenging and very competitive. However, over the last couple of months, I am seeing a bit more movement on a couple of roles being opened. A lot of them at the individual contributor level. So like a lot of customer success manager roles that are either because of the pipelines of growth is increasing. So obviously there is more customer success manager roles to take care of those accounts. I would say from overall, it is still very saturated in terms of a lot of candidates, but there's a lot of ways to kind of differentiate yourself, which obviously we're gonna touch upon it today. But I would say I'm looking at it with optimistic eyes, definitely. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel certainly more optimistic about it now than maybe 6 months ago, though want to affirm anyone sitting here who is still trudging along in this frankly crappy job market for job seekers. It's tough. I mean, I have a ton of colleagues, a ton of friends in my network who have been laid off, who have been searching for jobs for months, if not going on a year. And it really has nothing to do with them or their resume, right? Like Maria said, the market is incredibly saturated. As a hiring manager myself, over the past 6 months, I've received hundreds, bordering thousands of applications for customer success roles. So it is tough out there. And I just want to affirm anyone sitting here who's in the tough position they are now. Like Maria said, though, I certainly am more optimistic. I'm seeing more jobs being posted, seeing more offers being made. So I think we're potentially over the hump, but still tough. Still not a job seekers market, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. For everything, I agree. I've seen too in this market, as what Maria and Jody have kind of mentioned, that it's tough, but we're seeing a little more of a bright side.
Yeah. Well, to throw my 2 cents in there, I think that I agree that the market is turning around. There's more IC roles that are on the market right now than people looking to expand in leadership positions. But those still are out there too. But yeah, it still remains tough, but I agree generally that it's getting better. So we always have questions about resumes. So let's go on to the next question, which is effectively, what are your opinions about resumes and what type of style or resume resonates with you?
Yes. So I would say over the last couple of months, since I was also part of a job search beginning of the year in spring. So the CV and the strategy that I took was just to keep it very simple, very font. When it comes to font and type and style, keep it very simple, very clean cut. Um, Nothing that is going to create too much distraction for the content that you really want to communicate. And when I mean to content, of course, we're going to go in through achievements and also those key customer success metrics that we can kind of discuss more here in a team. But definitely the impact that you have created on your previous role, and more about the style. I always try to keep it at 2 pages, but I've seen 3 pages too very successfully too. So and definitely in my experience, I have removed experiences that are not too related to customer success. I just highlight that I was part of that company and that role. That was a tip that I took from a coaching session, and that helped me kind of just keep my content of customer success at the beginning of the CV. Yeah. I want to let other folks chime in. Yeah, Jody.
Sure. Yeah. Resumes are so subjective, right?
Yeah.
Based on who's reviewing the resume itself. But there are some pro tips, I think, that are pretty universal. Like Maria said, keeping it simple, clear, concise, no typos, obviously. Those are some basics. I think as a hiring manager, what I'm looking for is, what did you do? How did you do it? And what was the impact? And so often I read resumes that are really stuck on the what did I do and don't tell the story of what was the impact. So you're putting the hiring manager in a position to have to make assumptions about the impact without you telling that story on your resume. Resumes, I think, can tell better stories than cover letters, than personal statements, so long as they're written in that intentional manner, right? I did X leading to X resulting in X. It's quite formulaic, but it tells a really good story about what you did, how you did it, and why it matters to the business, to the client, etc.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
That's
Jody,
very
I want to
interesting.
double down on that impact statement because it's all about the ROI. It's great as a CSM. You say, yeah, I held QBRs, I did presentations, but as a hiring manager, I expect that to be part of your normal job. What I'm looking for is, talk to me about your book of business. I had a 93% renewal rate amongst my patch of 10 million ARR or whatever it may be. Giving actual numbers and percentages of your work is going to have a much greater impact for me when I'm hiring, because it shows that, number one, you're aware of these metrics, that they have value to you, but also gives me an idea of your skill level and what you're doing. So that will help set you apart from somebody who just puts a laundry list of the activities that they completed on the job.
Yeah, I like that, Matt, because when I coach people, I tell people, don't mistake activities for results, right? And I also tell people that I agree with what Maria said. Keep it like simple, keep the font. People always get into like color, no color, use the Canva default ones. No, don't use the Canva default ones, right? Just keep it simple. You want to, if you were ever to take like a graphic design 101 course, they teach you all about like typography and white space and how to make things readable. Like there's a lot of wisdom in that. And you should never forget that your resume, it's really only has one job, right? The one job your resume is supposed to do is to get you an interview. Like no one ever gets a job based off of how your resume looks, right? We've all talked to people who look great on paper, and then perhaps when they get into interview technique, it's not as equally impressive, right? So just that's always been my feedback, is that resumes, the whole point is to help you get an interview, to speak to an actual person, where then you can articulate more fully, the stories that you want to share. So yeah, any thoughts about that? Any follow-up thoughts we want to add on resumes before we move on?
Yeah, I think that the last one will be like back if once was when I was evaluating a couple of CVs, and sometimes it's time constraint and all that, but I did give a lot of my time to review them. It's I would say your summary too. Make sure that you do one that is very concise and very clear and that speaks to the job that you're referring to. Your summary can be a good way of like not spending too much time customizing every single CV for every opportunity, but it gives you an opportunity to at least connect the dots with that job specifically. Yeah. So
I agree. So summary sections are important, because people say it wants to be your elevator pitch, but also a small thing which seems to be growing in popularity is people can usually tell if you use Chat GPT on your summary. Quick story time. Last year when I was hiring for a senior CSM and a CSM position, I had received, and so that was like when Chat GPT was like new, fresh, amazing, like everyone was using it. They're like, this is the 200 IQ play. I don't have to type out all the things that I want to say. And I had, I think, 12 to 14 like LinkedIn messages that were the exact same, like to the T. They're the exact same LinkedIn. And then as I was scanning through all of these resumes, I noticed that a lot of them had the exact same like summary, right? Where if you have the same exact prompt, then you're going to get the same result, right? So use Chat GPT or other AI tech to help you supplement and maybe gather ideas to put things into your own words. But if your whole resume is just basically a Chat GPT like optimized for ATS, all that stuff, it's might look very similar to someone else's. So.
Yeah, I want to touch on that AI. I've used Gemini and ChatGPT multiple times for resumes and those cover letters. And to me, it's an aid. It's not the end all be all, but it's all about the question that you put in it. So often I'll say, I'm looking to build a cover letter for this title at this company. Touch upon these 4 things that are relevant for me. And then I'll paste my resume and I'll paste the job description in that. And that will get me a cover letter that's probably about 90% where it needs to be. But even there, it gives me something that's unique to that job, because I'm putting in the information for that job and my resume and the points that I want to highlight. So
yeah, great point. Yeah, the AI craze is kind of taken over, and I think people forget that you still need to put things in your own words, because if your resume is using words like, so what do you mean you have very erudite coworkers? And you're like, I have no idea what that means. It's like, oh, you probably didn't write that. There's stories, but we won't call those people out. But it can lead to situations. So let's go on to the next question, because it's just naturally. No. Before we do, follow up. about like ATS. Okay, this is like some people specifically coach people, hey, it's all about the ATS, forget networking. So let me ask the panel, how does your company, or the last company you worked at, do they have an internal HR system that targets ATS? And then how much weight do you give that? Or do you think it's I don't know. What are your opinions about it?
Yeah, in my previous role, we did not. We had just like obviously an HR kind of support that help us kind of screen a couple of those CVs, but nothing into now the way it's going. So I would say it's back again what you're saying, Brad. Like I think it's important for the candidate to really spend time on their uniqueness and leverage the AI to help them. And yeah, I do have a few folks in my network that are still searching, and they do put a lot of emphasis on that, on the keywords and so on and so far. But I think it's just, as long as you guys don't obsess too much about it, I think it's just a matter of having a better story of your CV. It should give you that differentiation point, and at the end of the day, land you that interview that you want. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll share at my firm. ATS. That is how resumes are initially screened and then moved on to hiring manager review. A huge, I guess, eliminator here is salary requirement. So, if someone on their application outside of resume, right? If someone on their application states a salary range that is well beyond the range that the role is posted at, they'll automatically be waived from moving forward. So I think, advocate for yourself and what you're wanting, certainly on the application, but be mindful of, if the salary is posted, you're not asking for like $100,000 more than that. In terms of keywords, I mean, absolutely, right? ATS is just a reality of the market and how resumes are initially screened, particularly at large firms and large companies that might get a high volume of applications. So if your resume is void of any connection or keyword tied to the job description or tied to the role, you may be risking your resume from being turned away. So I agree, it's certainly nothing to obsess over, but be mindful, particularly at larger firms,
100%.
that if your resume is totally opposite what the role is for and has none of those keywords, then it may be automatically rejected.
Yeah, in my experiences, a lot of the companies I've been at haven't leveraged the ATS systems yet, but it's starting to trickle in. I think there's a lot of programs out there, both free and paid solutions out there that will scan your resume, compared to a job posting. I think those are useful and relevant tools because they're going to help you make sure that also your resume is on point for the job. Maybe, and so, as we've kind of Jody's talked about, this is the 30-second snapshot of who you are. And that job description was probably created or had a lot of input by that hiring manager. So having your resume as tailored to that job description as possible is something that is very is going to help you out. And the backup tip on that for me is, when I've submitted resumes, I always save the resume in a pretty standard format. For me, it's usually my name dash company name dash role. So this way, you may have, I have a base version of my resume, but for every job, it's going to be a little customized to whatever they're looking for in that job that may be a little more relevant. And I'll take that base resume and maybe, there'll be eight or 10 different bullet points about my experience. Well, maybe one of them is not relevant at all, so I'll delete it off or modify something a little bit. This way, when I go for that, have that interview, I can pull up the exact resume that I gave them for the job application. So we're looking at the same document as to my accomplishments that I'm talking to.
And just a quick, I guess, fire round. and I'll answer too. I'll bring up the rear. How many seconds or minutes would you say, like, so I worked at smaller companies, and every time I hire, I don't have an HR person. It's always me that's got to review a lot of them. How long are you spending reviewing a resume? Because I'm not like a huge resume guy. I'm more like an interview technique person myself, but I know I'm not standard. So
Yeah. So definitely, I mean, my experience, I did have an HR kind of, I would say, support or screening that helped, the
Mhm.
volume. But I would spend not more than a minute, to be honest. But I would still spend some time on it. Like I was mentioning to Judy and Matt before that I do give that time to the candidates. I mean, having been in the other side, it's still
Mhm.
important to kind of understand a bit the story. You're never gonna get it until you meet that person in the interview 100%. But I mean, the CV can help you at least start that imagination of that candidate. So no more than a minute though.
Yeah.
Definitely not 10 minutes. I don't think any. I mean, it should be a 2 page. It should be straightforward, very clean grammar, like you already mentioned, and yeah.
Nice. I'm gonna be Darth Vader when it comes to my answer, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 to 2
Second.
minutes.
Yeah, I wanted to. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm looking at that, I'm right there in that 1 to 2 minutes, but it could be 5 seconds if it's a CS operations job and you're a chemist.
Of course.
So if I see that it's just you just applied to the job because you want to work at the company or as long as it's relevant, the more relevant it is, the more I look at it. Now, for me, I take a quick look and kind of give it the sniff test. Does this person look like they may be good? Yes, great. Then they're going to go to the next phase where I'm going to give it more due diligence and we have the introduction call. But it's all about the that quick sniff test. Do I think this could be a good fit? Yes, no. Go or stay.
Yeah. Yeah, so mine's like 7 to 10 seconds. But I do multiple passes. So it's like I'll tell you my exact thinking when I was looking to hire just a senior CSM. I'm looking to hire a senior CSM. Do they have CS experience? If not, move on, right? If they do, then I just do the quick scan. And if something catches my eye or something, stands out, then that's good. But generally, when I was like hiring for that position, it was, is the resume, and I really think people underestimate the power of like white space and making sure your resume is readable. You have like the company Teal, right? That's goes out, and their whole thing is to help people get resumes and cover letters that look, aesthetically pleasing, all that stuff. But if you look at their templates and all that, like they're very readable, and I feel like um, a common pitfall for a lot of job seekers is, well, Maria's told me I only have 2 pages, and so I have to put every little last accomplishment I've ever done on a 10.5 because hopefully they don't know it's smaller than 11-point font, and I have to cram it on there. The margins are 0.5, and again, it gets back to the whole job of a resume, right? Which is to get you in front of a person, right? And so a lot of times when I would see resumes that were like overly colorful and then or just like super busy, it's harder for my brain to just sort out like where's the important information that I'm looking for in this 7 to 10 seconds. Also, bringing up pictures, okay? You have your physical like picture on your resume, like the Canva, um, you know, like I've done a lot of these hiring manager AMAs, and if you have a picture, just know that you will be rejected flat out by a lot of companies because they don't want to get into the whole like, oh, I look like this, and that's why they didn't get hired. So they just flat out reject people. So if you're putting your picture on your resume, at least in this line of work, stop doing it, right? Just there hasn't been one hiring manager that I brought on, and it's like having a picture on there is, really what set me apart because I am balding and have blue eyes. It's like that's what they wanted. They wanted a balding guy with blue eyes. It's like, no, this picture is just not going to help you out. what are thoughts
It's
about that?
interesting that you talk about the picture, Brad. I've done some international hiring, and specifically in Mexico, it's pretty commonplace that a lot of people there put pictures on their resume. And being especially from U.S. and California, where we're very litigious, especially with job related stuff, I actually don't even look at the name. I start at the bottom of the resume and work my way up. I don't want to create any preconceived, male, female, I don't want to have a picture of them, because the goal of being a good hiring manager is to find the best person for the job. So, it can be tough, but obviously if it's there as a PDF, you're kind of hard to avoid it, but you can always just start at the bottom to understand where they started to, where they're at today.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I think to the picture is in, I would say, let's North America, right? Because exactly what Matt is saying. Like I actually, when I was working in Spain, I had to put, when I was applying, I had to put my picture. It was part of like kind of like the go-to or the culture piece to follow. But here in North America, I think now with LinkedIn, it's, you shouldn't put that picture in your CV. Immediately, the hiring manager can just cross-reference who you are on LinkedIn as well. If you don't have a picture on LinkedIn, then that's a different story. But I guess what I love about Matt, like that piece, is actually great advice. Like to start, at the bottom of the CV, to kind of not make any subjective decisions. I think my experience of evaluating CVs has always been a combination of again, the summary, right? That entry elevator pitch straight to the point of why you want, what's your story and your customer success journey, and also the last experience that you had and the impact in that role. So those were my go-to, that where I would spend most of the time. And yeah, hopefully the picture shouldn't be there and to not distract too.
But it's an interesting point, Maria, because Matt's talking about Mexico. You worked in Spain, or you were in Spain. You're now in Canada. So it's really context dependent, right? It depends on, where you're applying, because it sounds like table stakes in other places, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Anything, Joe, do you want to add before we move on?
Nope. Totally agree. Minimize the distractions if you can. And I feel similarly about hobbies. Maybe that is just me, but having to read about your hobbies on a resume, it does humanize you, and I like it. But I'm never sat down and hired someone because they're interested in hiking, right? So similar context there, and certainly again, that's the very Western European, North American view here. But I'm a no pictures, no hobbies on a resume kind of hiring manager.
Yeah, me too. I actually have radical views about resumes. I've moved to a one pager myself. It's been a hot minute since I've graduated from college. I don't know if they want to know about my first job right out of college. I'm probably assuming they don't, especially because it's not all too pertinent about what I was currently doing. So there's all of these everyone has their own opinions, and there's lots and lots of services that tell you, but the key is that's why this is going to be helpful for a lot of people, because we have CS hiring managers. We're getting the opinions and the different views about different people, right? And so I think it's really helpful, because there's a million questions. We could go on all day about resumes, but let's move on to the next question, which is, do personal outreaches work to influence you to bring someone in for an interview? So like when people are networking with you, they send you a DM on LinkedIn. Hey, Maria, love that you love soccer. I do too. By the way, hire me, is, or however they want to say it. But is it effective? Does it work on you guys?
I would say with the right message and the right approach, yes, it helps in the sense of getting your name on top of the pile, on top of the decision making. Because sometimes, in my experience, yes, I had the ultimate decision in my hiring of my team, but I still had a lot of like great support from my colleagues, and usually panel, and usually like another CSM will be part of the interview process too, to give me that that feedback to make sure that I was making the right hiring decision. So I would say that intro, that reaching out to the hiring manager via LinkedIn, it can be a really good way of like showing your interest above and beyond just, oh, I send this job, I applied to this job, right? The message, it needs to be why you're really interested in working for the organization. Why is it the organization, the value speaks to you? And why is it that you want to work in CS? And something that resonates with the hiring manager. On the other side, when I was searching for a job, I was doing the same approach, and I got a lot of great feedback. Sometimes it was like, you know what, we decided to hire internally, but thank you for reaching out. We'll keep in touch, and so on and so forth. But anyway, I want to give space to Jody and Matt to chime in on this one. Yeah.
Great input.
Yeah, the LinkedIn messages and personal outreach is tough. I don't want to discourage it, but I will say I've been more compelled to connect with a candidate if that candidate actually is connected to me via someone on my team. They reach out. I recently had a story where someone reached out to one of my people I currently supervise, and they said, "Hey, I see that you're currently on this team. Curious about the role, curious to know about what your experience has been." And it's less, "Hey, get me an interview," and it's more, "What's your experience been? Looks like you're on the team. Curious to hear more," right? And it's much more conversational. It's much more sort of true networking. And then my team member is typically like, "Hey, I spoke to this person. They said that they reached out, or excuse me, they said that they submitted a resume. I enjoyed my conversation with them. Sounds like they're energetic about the role. Wanted to give you a heads up," right? And from there, I'm like, this person sort of took the extra mile to get to know my team, learn about what the team's experience has been. Let me put a bug in my HR person's ear that I want to sort of bump that resume and take a look at it. That's one strategy that I personally have found to be slightly more effective, at least for me as a hiring manager. I got to be honest, I haven't gotten a ton of LinkedIn messages when I post a role that have convinced me to sort of reach out and prioritize that resume. The quality of the message often just isn't there. It's, "Hey, I applied. I'm eager to learn more." And, you know, what you're doing there is really creating more work for a hiring manager. And you really want to be sensitive to, am I positioning myself as someone they must speak to, and why? Why is that? Tell a compelling story. If you're going to hop into someone's DMs, make it compelling, make it so that they cannot turn you down and say, "Wow, shit, I'm really interested in learning more about your resume. Thanks for sharing that," versus, "Okay, I'm glad you're interested," right? Now it's sort of a sale, and a poor sale at that. So if you're going to take the time to hop into someone's DM, make it compelling, man. The compelling ones are, "Hey, I've been keeping track of this company for a long time. I'm super interested in what your team is doing. I read X, Y, and Z. In a recent role, I've done X, Y, and Z, and I'm super energized. I feel like this could be a really good fit," right? You're connecting the company to your experience, to why you think you're a good fit. That is more compelling, certainly, than, "Hey, I'm interested and I think I'm a good fit," right? But it's subjective, as always.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Jody. It needs to be something compelling. Daniel, kind of to your comment in the chat, specifics. Really, it shouldn't be a full-on cover letter thing. No, leave that for the application. It needs to be something, relatively short, few sentences. Say, "Hi, acknowledge you're a hiring manager. I applied. Here's some of the things I bring to the table that I could help you." Something to set you apart. If you send off a long diatribe, I'm going to ignore it and won't look back. But if you can, in those 2 seconds, when I look at that LinkedIn message or whatever, catch my attention, I'll probably go look for your resumes within the pile. I mean, the problem with as being a hiring manager nowadays is you post a job at 9 a.m, by noon, there's 300 people who have applied for this job. So yes, if you can create a reach out that gets me to go look for your resume, there could be some benefit for you that comes out of it.
Yeah. So let me follow up. Let me just say, this is to summarize and kind of put a bow around what the panel is saying. If you do the DM properly, it will greatly help you. If you do the DM poorly, you're toast, right? So, and you even could annoy them or things like that. So my personal opinion is I absolutely am influenced by people that send me DMs, because part of the hiring process is who's putting in the effort, right?
Yeah.
I almost expect you to DM me, like it's open. I want you to DM me, and I will give you my word by word. What's worked for me multiple times in getting effective responses is we'll say that Jody is the hiring manager. Hey Jody, comma, I saw that you're hiring for a senior CSM. Here's what I can bring to your team and offer. Bullet, bullet, bullet. Would welcome an interview. Talk to you later, Brad. That's it. I mean, those bullets, though, they want to be compelling, right? Based off of the job description. Or if you do have some sort of shared connection, I have spoken to lots of people where you don't go directly to the hiring manager. You don't go to Jody, but you go to people who are, adjacent to her, who are on her team, or who say work in marketing. So they work with her, or in sales. It's very, very effective. And you can learn how to do that more and a little bit better with just some of the right coaching and things like that. To answer Dan's previous question here, I just want to make sure I hit this. Great point, Brad. I have over 2 pages of experience, but I don't want to list every position I've held. Yeah, your last 3 or 4 positions. Oh, and by the way, when you list on your resume, I'm only giving you 10 seconds generally on the first scan. I'm not reading the 3rd bullet on your 4th position. Okay. I'm not going to your 4th position and reading your 3rd bullet. Okay. There are people, so I advocate for even people like myself or other people who have experience, just have a 1-page resume. You can do it. Like, I know that we want to put our technologies, we want to put our professionals, but really I'm only interested in the last, 1, 2, 3 positions that you have. And if you're talking about results and not activity, you can do it. All right. Sorry, panel, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to kind of circle back again to the whole DM messaging the hiring manager. I think also highlighting anything that is relevant to the company. Let's say that company was one of your customers where you work at, highlight that. If the culture speaks to you, highlight in the DM message. And it's not a cover letter. It's just something that it connects more than just, hey, I apply, just following up. Oh, hey, I applied, like kind of Jody mentioned, like that's not going to do anything for the hiring manager. Day to day, we have so many things on the plate that you need to have that message, have a call to action at the end too. Like kind of Brian, what you said, like, hey, interview, or looking forward to being part of the process, and so on and so forth. And lastly, if you do have reference or someone that works at that company or someone that knows that person, obviously introductions are very, very powerful as well. To the
I think in this day and age, the networking capabilities is where you're going to have your best opportunities to find a job. There's a lot of jobs that don't even get posted and can get filled based upon referrals of your network. So, there's a ton of user communities in the CS space, whether it be Success Panda, there's GGR, there's CX Exchange, there's Customer Success Collective. All of them have different user communities, job boards, and just be spending time there networking, finding people, connecting with them, is a great way to go. Because I've been job hunting as well, and it's like, I applied to a job the other day, and a guy I worked with some 7 years ago is at that company at a rather high level, so I'm getting a referral into a job through him. That's going to go a lot farther than me just applying through the site and maybe getting that resume landed somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's so many. I've met with, hundreds of people over this past year, and networking is absolutely effective. There is a right way to, well, it's like anything, a good, better, best situation. And it takes time to kind of learn the skills, right? I'll learn what is effective and what is not. We had a question over here from, let me find it up, scrolled up. It's from, did she delete it? Link. Oh, it just says LinkedIn user. Okay. Should you send your resume over to them when you're connecting? No, I generally don't. Just like I said, keep the message short and talk about value. And I like asking for an interview specifically because you never get anything in life you don't ask for. So, all right, running close on time, and I do want to talk about another question, which is interview technique. So, let me back up. I've done a lot of mock interviews. Interview technique has been interesting, to say the least. I've helped coach people who will say are very senior, VP, and it might be the first time they're actually looking for a job. And then you might have people who are entry level. They have great interview technique. So the question is, when people interview, are you looking for a specific technique, or how do you judge interview technique in a job candidate?
So in my experience when interviewing a candidate, the first thing I try to do is to put that candidate at ease first and foremost, right? Because everyone is nervous, and your nerves can really affect your communication and sharing that story with you. So I would say, I mean, in terms of interview techniques, I would just really suggest that candidates really prepare as much as possible via mock interviews, or setting up your answers in a STAR method. I know we heard about it, and some of it can be tedious to prepare, but it does help you reach to the point directly, and it clears out any misunderstanding. And again, the interview also, it's not unlimited time. There is a time, either it's 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or whatever it is. So you want to make sure that you prepare as much as possible with that method to really come across very clear with the story. So I mean, I have more to share, but I kind of wanna pause there and ask Jody and Matt to shine in. Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah, I'd share less than technique being really obvious. What's more obvious to me is preparation versus no preparation. So if we want to consider preparation a technique, then yes, that's the technique I'm looking for. A little bit of prep, right? It's very obvious when someone's done their research on a company, on a team, on a role. Certainly, it's obvious in their confidence and how they convey, I'm very interested in this company because, right? In addition, preparing scenarios, having ideas in your mind of, if I'm asked X, Y, and Z, I'm going to reference my experience in X, Y, and Z. It's very clear when someone is quick to recall a relevant experience, and it's okay if you need to take your time to sort of get that. It's okay if it takes a little time to get that example sort of to the top of your brain, but prep is key, and that's the technique that I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's a good point. Go ahead, Matt.
For me, it all starts off with being professional. I don't care what the job is. Showing up in a tank top for that video call is probably not the most appropriate way to do it. Great thing about virtual interviews is that, as I call it, the professional mullet. You can have a dress shirt up here and be in basketball shorts and flip flops downstairs. So it's about have that appearance that you're somewhat professional on the camera is important. For me, there are a few other things that I kind of jot down as we're talking about this. As I look at this call right now, I have my laptop and I have 3 additional computer screens. So have your resume up, have on one of the screens a Word document of talking points. You know, you're going to be asked, why are you looking for a job? Why did you leave your last job? Have talking points there that, not that you're going to read them off, but to help keep you on track and keep you with that concise conversation. Constantly be taking notes about what they're talking about. This is going to help you when deciding whether you want the job or not, for that follow-up email that you're going to shoot off. You can double down on the topic that was brought up. And, using specific examples is going to be key when talking. But one of the most important things is to make sure that you are thoughtful in your conversation or on your response. And you can be asked a question. You don't have to respond in 2 seconds. You can take a second to think about it. And for me, one of the tactics I use to kind of buy myself that time is I repeat the question that was being asked. Or I start off my answer with, why am I looking for a job? I'm looking for a new job because, so that 5-second buffer gives me just a little time to maybe glance over to my notes or think of a specific example and have a more coherent response. And then the last thing I always tell people, because I do a lot of work with interns and young professionals, is when you're having an interview, try standing up. When you sit down, you're more relaxed. You're more likely to use crutch words like the ums and the knows. Standing up, your body's automatically going to go into presentation mode. I don't care if it's a phone interview or if it's for a virtual. Standing up will just give you a little more crispness on your conversation and come across a little more professional.
I would add, I love the standing up a suggestion, to be honest, Matt. Like, I think that should even your voice could improve, I would say also, like, besides the preparation, which obviously it should be part of the preparation, it's like being able to have a very clear elevator pitch. So, Brad, you asked about how long, we review CVs. How about how long we stay engaged in an interview from a hiring candidate, like hiring interviewer to a candidate, right? So I have lost so much like engagement in candidate because they lost me as well from the start. So I think preparation of elevator pitch at the beginning of that interview, the reason why you're here, why you want to work in specific company in that role in CS, you need to be able to really, really master it and feel confident about it and really rehearse it or just make it your own, right? That's going to help you at the beginning of the interview and can lead to the entire conversation, right? So that's another one too.
Yeah. So there's so much, and we have it just says LinkedIn user, but this is a very common challenge that people face. She was saying, "Thank you, Jody. I'm struggling to get interviews. I've already applied to hundreds of jobs. Interviews I do get I'm overqualified, but I am not, in my opinion." So I've in my effort of developing Success Panda, I've built up a small coaching practice, and I also have group mentoring that I can do. But the long story short is that you can think about the job as the job search as a funnel, and essentially at the top of the funnel, there's 3 phases. There's landing an interview, moving on in an interview, and landing an offer. And wherever you're getting stuck in that funnel is where the challenge is. And there's different skills to master in each part of the funnel. So like at the very top of the funnel, it's your online persona, i.e. LinkedIn, how you present yourself, your resume, right? And what I call glitter, your ability to get noticed. On the second part, which is to move on in interviews, it's about your ability to have interview technique and your energy. And then to land offers is about storytelling and executive presence. Matt talked a little bit about that executive presence. What separates when you're in the final round, you have 3, people who are in the final round, who gets the job versus who doesn't comes down to who tells the best stories and then who has great executive presence. So the bottom line is that if you're applying for jobs and you're not getting results, and I would say two to three for every 100, you should probably try to aim for like a 2 or 3 interview for every 100 you apply to, right? Then you have to reevaluate what are your skill set. And to go back to interview technique, STAR is popular, but I find most people in interviews are too long-winded. Their answers are too long. So I teach CAR, challenge, action, result, right? And it's kind of it's a great thing to help in your interview technique to be like, hey, Maria, I'm going to answer these conversations about, my experience using a CAR technique, so you can follow along and so that you can understand my experience. Like it's okay to help guide them through that because they'll appreciate that clarity. And I think that the challenge is that a lot of people they get a lot of advice from well-meaning people, but hopefully some of the things that you've heard today on this call can give you pause to be like, maybe there's a different way and there's some different perspectives that have been shared. So I know that we're getting close to time, but any final words from the panel that you can send out to the people who are right now listening on help landing their next job? Anything you want to add?
I would just add that you know, just the preparation, whenever you land that interview, right, and that phase, like Brad, you're mentioning, just prepare as much as you can, try your best, and just keep that motivation on the search. And yeah, the preparation for me has always been the key. And when it didn't went my way, a lot of it is like, oh, the preparation would have been X better and all that stuff. So yeah, just the preparation and just yeah, we're here to support. I'm happy to connect and give any more advice and tips and tricks. I'm very passionate about the CS community. I'm here to collaborate and help.
Yeah, my final. Go ahead.
Well, I
I'm
was going
sorry.
to say, and Maria, we need to get you to list your free community on Success Pandas with all
Yes.
the other free
Yes,
communities that are in there too. But
Yes.
we'll talk about that later. Go ahead, Jody. Sorry.
No, that's okay. My final tidbit is just, you're hearing all this advice, right? The best practices, the sort of expert knowledge here. You've got to be sort of true to yourself and move away from what is it they want to hear to what stories do I want to tell. The stories you want to tell should ideally align with the role, right? But if sometimes I think we get so concerned with, oh, what are they going to think of my resume? I need to do this. I need to stand. I need to sit. I need to wear X, Y, and Z. If it's not true to who you are and what you are confident in, that's going to come through. So your confidence, your belief in what you're saying, your belief in what you're wearing during an interview, right? Like all of that is going to be far more compelling than doing what you think the hiring manager wants to hear. So yes, listen to these best practices, try to apply them, of course. But really check in with yourself and make sure that you are telling your story of your experience in a way that's authentic and true to who you are. Because if not, that's going to shine through. It's going to come through.
Love that. Thanks, Jody.
Yeah. And for me, a lot of it's just about luck and timing. Yeah, I was off work for a while. First 2 months I was doing 9-10 resumes a day, various jobs that I was generally qualified for. I didn't hear a single response back. And then within a week, I got 4 callbacks. So it's a combination of luck, it's a combination of timing, and it's however you can leverage your network that's going to yield your best ROI.
Yeah, and those are all really great points. And I just think that you can't give up, just iterate along the way. If there's something that resonates with you, like, wanting to use CAR, because if I would say in my experience of hiring and both coaching and mentoring and helping with people and doing lots of mock interviews, which we do on Success Panda, most people are just a bit too long-winded and you can lose interest from the hiring manager because they're like, when's the point of the story going to come? And don't feel bad if you're not great at interview technique, because it's just a muscle and exercise that you need to practice. And so that was one of the motivating factors of starting Success Panda, is because you can go on there and self-organize into mock interviews, and just read my recommendations. People that do even one mock interview, it's given them enough structure and feedback in order to kind of take the next step. And it doesn't have to be with me. It can do with anybody. Just find a friend and work on your mock interview technique, and things will definitely improve for you. So, Matt, Jody, Maria, we've reached the end, but it's been a great conversation. And I just wanted to thank you for coming on to the Success Panda community. This will be posted later, and it will be our first episode on the Success Panda YouTube channel, which hasn't been created yet, but will. So if you did miss it, feel free to go over there and you can rewatch it. But many thanks. It's volunteers like you guys that help make these conversations possible and what make them also enjoyable. So I appreciate it, and I know our listeners do too. And everyone, enjoy your weekend. Do something fun. If you're a job seeker, don't worry. You can do something fun today. You get back to it next week. So thank you, panel, for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Have a great weekend. Bye.